Now, we've been talking about holding down Alt and unlocking and just moving the gizmo around or resetting the gizmo to the world center and stuff like that. What you can do, if I go out of solo mode here, and we've got a shirt here, let's go ahead and hold down Alt. We'll go to our unmashed mesh center. We'll hit X to go out of X symmetry here, and we'll go straight to the center of this thing. Now, if I don't hold down Alt and I hit the home key, what that's going to do is instead of moving my pivot, because again, I don't have Alt held down to unlock it, that's going to actually move my mesh I have selected to the world, wherever that pivot is. So I reset the pivot to go to the unmasked mesh center, and then I hit the home key, and it took my object pivot, which is in the middle of that object, and shoots it right down to my world 0, 0, 0. So let's go ahead and undo that. Control Z. And the same is true if you go over here to reset mesh orientation, you don't hold down Alt. What that'll do, I'm going to hold down Alt, I'm going to move my pivot over, and I'm just going to kind of rotate it a little bit. If I don't hold down Alt and I say reset mesh orientation, what that's going to do is it's going to make my pivot snap to, X, Y, and Z, perfect, straightforward to the left and straight up. But what it's going to do is move my object to compensate for my pivot going back to this world axis. So if that's useful to you, you can kind of use that to orient or reposition your meshes. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control Z. And if I don't hold down Alt on this, go to Unmashed Mesh Center, that's okay. That's still all it's going to do. It's not going to move your mesh here. But we can go ahead and hold down Alt and then reset this. If I want to move it down again to the 0, 0, 0 of my world, I can just hit Home, and that'll move the center of my object right to the center of the world. Kind of like Unify, only without the scale. If you go down here to Deformation Unify, it'll kind of do the same thing. It'll move it to center world 0, 0, 0, but it'll kind of rescale it to be a ZBrush unit. But in lieu of that, what you can now do is, reset your pivot to the center of your object if you want, and then hit Home, and that'll move it right down here without rescaling it. All right, just a few more things to talk about here. This gear icon right here, we're going to skip. This gets into a lot of really cool stuff, but is a little bit beyond the scope of just little gizmo changes. You're going to see there's a sticky mode here. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control Z, put the shirt right back where it started, and let's choose something else. I'm going to Alt tap his goggles up here. So what sticky does is if we hit W, our gizmo is, who knows where it is, it's way down there in the center. So what I'm going to do is hold down Alt, and I'm going to say go to my Unmashed Mesh Center, and now I'm right in the middle of my object. Now you're going to see when I move this object, the pivot's going to go with it. It's going to stay right in the middle of that object. So no matter where it goes, the pivot's going to stay with it. If I turn on sticky mode, what that's going to do, it's going to highlight this little pin button here. So now when I move this object, the pivot's going to snap right back to the center. Now this is useful for a number of reasons, but probably the one I use it for the most is when I duplicate an object along an axis. So what I mean by that is if I hold down Control Shift, just like in previous versions of ZBrush, if you hold down Control Shift with transpose, and actually one thing I forgot to do, if we want to duplicate this object off, we can't have subdivision history. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Geometry, delete lower. And now when I hold down Control, I can just constrain to an axis. You can hold down Control Shift and it'll constrain it, but because you have these handy dandy little movement arrows, you can just go ahead and use those. So if I want to drag off multiple copies of this previously, what I can do is use transpose, or in this case the gizmo, hold down Control and just drag this up, and drag this up. Now if I want to space these perfectly, what I used to be able to do is hold down Control Shift and drag one up and then hit 1 to replay last. Now you're going to see when I do replay last, it's going to do something weird. If you want to know where replay last is, it's under Stroke, Modifiers, Replay Last, and again the hotkey for that is 1. What you're going to want to do in order to get this to work is you're going to want to have your object here, turn on sticky, and then hold down Control and drag, and now when you hit 1, it'll start duplicating and repeating that last duplicate drag out that you made, and keep them all consistently spaced. So that's probably what I use sticky the most for, but you can use that to just, keep your pivot stationary and then move your object wherever you want to go, and now you can just rotate this object or, do whatever you'd like to do, keeping your pivot stationary.